Today we're going to do a tutorial on how to do a very simple, what I call a limp cheer bow. It's a little thinner one. It's got a little bit of bling on it. I coach at a small liberal arts college. They wanted something not as big as a traditional cheer bow. So this is an option for them to have something a little bit different. I'm going to show you how to do this one, explain it, where I got my materials, list of materials, a couple of little tips that I found, and then I'm going to build one. It's actually going to be in purple. It's a little easier to see in the tutorial when I do it in the purple one. And hopefully it'll be helpful for you to be able to do something like this for your own team. So I've got all my stuff assembled here. First of all, I did do a heat press vinyl or HTV vinyl on all of these. My font is the same. I'm going to start showing you my purple one so you can get a better view of that one. This font is a free font. It is Engravers. This happens to be I think it was either one that either came with my system or I downloaded from one of the websites online. It's Engravers is what it is though. And I just did very simple letters, mushed them up so they were easier to see and there wasn't as much space. Make sure you mirror those. Done that already today. Make sure you mirror all those letters. I did this as an assembly line type of situation. I have 30 cheerleaders, so therefore I needed 60 bows because we're doing purple and white. I did all, or as many as I could on one sheet on my Cricut, and then I went ahead and cut them all out. I do have a heat press. I heat press them all at the same time, well, in stages. So what was nice about that is I didn't measure where they were on the ribbon. I just did them. I laid them all out, put them on the heat press. A few of mine needed to adjust, but they were all lined up. I could see if they were about the same position. Then I went ahead and pulled all those ribbons off at the same time. And you can see there, this is some of them are already done. The next thing I did is I took my ribbons in groups and I folded them again on the heat press. I made sure I had a nice line, and it's not a super intense line, but when I lay it out, there it is. You can see that fold line. It makes my life a little bit easier here in a few minutes, and I just did that literally in half and I eyeballed it. The other tools that you need, obviously, is your gross grain ribbon. Let's talk about tools. I got ahead of myself. It's 1.5 inch gross grain ribbon. I get mine from the Ribbon Retreat. It is an online store. Their quality is outstanding, and I find their prices are really good. Their shipping's fast. Obviously, everything else is just down on my Cricut Explorer. You can do it on whatever device you have. For the heat press vinyl, this is just a very simple heat press. I mean, this wasn't anything special. You could add glitter, you could do whatever you wanted to. This one I wanted to be simple. We do a lot of glitter in a lot of other areas. So so then you'll need your vinyl. You'll need to be able to have something to press it with, either an iron or a heat press. I personally do have a heat press, not an easy press. It works best for me. And then the other things you're going to need is you're going to need some zip ties. I prefer the 4-inch zip ties. They, for this project, I like them to be a little bit thinner than the really big, fat, heavy ones. The other thing you're going to want is your rhinestones. This, I will tell you, this is 2 inches of your rhinestone per bow. It's 34 inches of ribbon or per bow. So I just order it in bulk and then I cut it myself. I, again, cut them all, put all the heat press on, press them all, then I start building them all. I do my rhinestones in a roll like this, and I cut them and make them fit the way I want them to, so it works out really well that way. The other tools you're gonna wanna, of course, need is something to burn your ends. I am a huge fan of this. This is literally a soldering iron I got at Harbor Freight. I think it was like $7. I've talked about that one on another one of my videos before. And then your basic glue gun that, you know, we all have multiples of. The other thing that I find is easy is I do use a template for this. This is a 7x10 template. It is literally a piece of cardboard that I cut, made it the way I wanted to. I find it just makes it a little bit more consistent when I go to build my bows. And that's what we're gonna do now. So I'm gonna tilt this just slightly so I can make sure you see it. So I've got my little thing down. What I do is I have all my ribbons stacked up in this order. So I have my name on one side, the blank side on the other. The reason that's important is because, believe it or not, you can build these bows opposite, and then you'll have one that looks like this, and then the next one will have yotes on this side, and that does make it a bit challenging. So little things you've learned, being a blonde coach who's done this, these are the things I've learned. So you're gonna lay this out on your mat. I use this cutting mat for everything just because it already has lines and it keeps me square, keeps me on task, which obviously I need. I put this down, I put the crease right in between my little spot here, and I usually take the crease and put it on one of the lines so it's easier for me to see. Then I cross over my 2 ribbons, boom and boom. I do cross them over the same direction. It's just my own take. You do what you want. I just find it works better if I do everything the same. And then how I do this is once I've got all the ribbons done, now I start building all the bows. Then I go back and I do all of the attachments now of the bling, and I burn all the ends. Now I'm going to tell you my little secret that I do. When I first started doing bows, I didn't do this. Somebody else taught me this. I don't know why I didn't think about this. Y'all probably already do this, and that's awesome if you do. You guys are rock stars. I'm not so much sometimes. I take my ponios. First of all, I do 2 of them. With this bow in particular, it helps it stand up a little straighter on their head. I do still do a Minnie Mouse bow. That's what I prefer. So I like it to stand up. I put them inside the zip tie. So I start to adjust that zip tie just a little bit here, and then I do my next little magic. This is, in my opinion, the best thing I ever learned, and it was completely by accident. It worked out really well. I take these tails and I actually almost cross them in the back. Now I don't move the ribbons completely, but what I do is I do that with them in the behind the ribbon. So I've just kind of got them crossed. See, this is the one that was over, and I just flip them like that. So the reason why, and I'm going to do this, hopefully you'll be able to see this, okay. The reason why is because when I get this all zip tied, and I've got this folded just the way I want it, and I pretty much can feel it anymore of where I want it. And I get it really nice and tight. Now my ribbons, of course that one's going to twig, are going to, for the most part, stay right nice and long the way I want them, rather than going straight out or sideways. This was one of those really stupid little tiny things that when I learned this, it was like a game changer. There's a lot of tutorials out there that talk about doing the loops and then adding the ribbon afterwards. It's totally up to you. This is how I do it because, again, it's one less step. I don't want to have to do loops and then add tails and then add, and then I want this to be as simple as possible. I lose interest in things if I have to take too long to work on them. So if it's got to be quick and easy for me. You snip off the end. This is 2 inches with 2 strips of the rhinestones. Find the best way. So now my zip tie is completely got everything completely tight in there, secure. It's not going anywhere. The front of my bow has got the right little creases that I want it to, so it's going to have the dimples in the right spots. My tails are going down perfectly. I'm a happy camper with this bow. What I like to do personally, and this is just my personal take on this, I work from the top down. So I look at the top of my bow in the back. This is my own taste. And I go to where the top of my zip tie piece is, okay? And I push that kind of down. Then I don't like a lot of hot glue in the front. It looks icky, it's ugly, I don't like that. So what I try to do is I try to keep this as thin as possible. I pretty much barely put any hot glue on the front. And then I wrap it around, and that's where I add the extra hot glue in the back so that my little rhinestones will stay. It will look really pretty, and yet I won't have a bunch of goopy glue coming through the middle. It's just my own taste. Sometimes I find that for some reason, either I've measured the rhinestones wrong or the zip tie is super tight. Sometimes I find that this has a little bit more of a bump in the back, a little bit more rhinestone hanging out. Sometimes I'll trim that if I need to. If not, I just kind of work it. And I make that rhinestone piece, if you'll notice in the back, I build it all around that little zip tie bump, the click part of the zip tie. The reason I do that is because when they're on the head, the bow pony holder is going to be here. And I almost was going to bring out a wig, and I honestly forgot to show you. All that does is it gives you something for your bow to stand up more on. Now, if you don't want a stand-up bow, this ain't how you want to do it. But if you want a more of a stand-up bow, that automatically makes it kind of go forward a little bit by giving it a bump to stand up. For a rear-facing pony, it's going to stay nice and straight. It's not going to twist because, again, it's got that little bump on it. It's one of those dumb little things that accidentally I figured out, hey, that works really well. Now, for me, I really like a traditional end. Some people like the diagonals, or just diagonals. I really like the 2-point ends on my bows. It's just, I'm old school. A bow should have 2 points. So I'm going to just quickly do that real fast with my scissors. Eyeball these to make sure, sometimes they adjust a little bit. Those are pretty much spot on. Then I just quickly burn my ends, and this little one is finished. That's how quick they are, which is good because, like I said, I have 60 of these to do. You can obviously use whatever color of heat press vinyl you want. I've experimented a little bit with some of these. Doing different colors, doing layers. The layers are nice, and for a more competition type bow, that would probably be an option. For my team, less is more. And so you can see my vinyls are rolling back here because I pulled them off my wall. I've tried lots of different ones. Personally, I just like the simple. Again, that's what my kids were wanting. You could definitely shadow this and do layers. If you're fairly new to Cricut, this is a really easy project. If you are an experienced Cricketeer, which I am not an experienced Cricketeer, then you could do all kinds of fun things. I've also seen these, or another option that I had considered doing with this is doing paw prints on one side, or, whatever your, if your wings, I guess you could do a wing, do it like part of the, almost like a mascot symbol rather than the words, if you'd rather do that. So kind of get creative, simple, great for either a cheer camp or a special day. If you have a pink out, this would be a great option for a pink out. That would be simple. And then, you could always do the cancer symbol, the cancer ribbon on the other side if you wanted to, and it would keep it simple and inexpensive. Hope that helps.